by virtue of Standing Order 48. Honorable Patrice Hermans, Honorable Dr. the Honorable Farad Oumir, Honorable Paul Béranger, Honorable Nankouma Oboda, Honorable Richard Duval, Honorable Karen Foukion Bacha, Dr. the Honorable Mahendanga Prasad, Honorable Eshan Juman, Honorable Franco Kirin, Honorable Kushal Lobin, Honorable Dalmarajan Nagalingam, Honorable Ariane Navar-Marie, and Honorable Reza Utim. I have, in regard to the Honorable Rajesh Bhagwan, I maintain my decision to name him for gross disorder and for persistently and willfully obstructing the business of the Assembly by abusing its rules by virtue of Standing Order 49.
Mr. Speaker, in view of your decision to name the Honourable Rajesh Bhagwan, I beg leave under Standing Order 17.3 to take the time of the House for urgent business.
Is the motion seconded? Seconded. The question is that the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister be allowed under Standing Order 17.3 to take the time of the House for urgent business. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. Aye.
Mr. Speaker, having obtained your permission, I beg to move under Standing Order 29.1 to present a motion without notice.
Seconded. The question is that the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister be allowed under Standing Order 29.1 to move a motion without notice. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, in view of your decision to name the Honourable Rajesh Bhagwan, I beg to move that the Honourable Rajesh Bhagwan be suspended from the service of the Assembly for today's sitting and the next two sittings, unless apologies are tendered to the House.
Seconded. The question is that the Honourable Rajesh Bhagwan be suspended from the service of the Assembly for today's sitting and the next two sittings, unless apologies are tendered to the House. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. It's my pleasure to join to the debates on the new food bill, which is being presented by the Minister of Health and Wellness, Honorable Jagat Pal. I understand that the food bill aims to strengthen, to reinforce the food control system in Mauritius. This new bill will ensure a coordinated approach to food safety from primary production to consumption. And this also implies improved coordination in all stages of food handling, which includes manufacturing, transportation, distribution, and retailing. Mr. Speaker, sir, achieving zero hunger and preserving good health and well-being are among the UN Sustainable Development Goals to be attained by 2030. These challenges put greater responsibility on food producers and handlers to ensure food safety. I note that there is a wide consensus from members from both sides of the House on this important piece of legislation. This is because food safety is everyone's business. Like air, like water, food is fundamental to life itself, and we need it to survive and to thrive. But food is so much more. It is a source of enjoyment. It is an expression of culture and faith. It is an art form, and it brings families, friends, and communities together. However, it turns out that what should be a source of nourishment and enjoyment has very often been the cause of disease and death. Which is why, Mr. Speaker, sir, unsafe food is unacceptable. Who would have ever thought that some 420,000 persons in the world die every year after having contaminated food? Who would have ever thought that an estimated 600 million, almost 1 in 10 people in the world, fall ill after eating contaminated food. Nobody was alarmed about food contamination consequences until the World Health Organization, WHO, published its first estimates in 2015. The figures came as a serious wake-up call. Before that, the global burden of foodborne disease was unknown. How many people who have diarrhea will consult a doctor? Very few. If they do, what are the chances the symptom will be linked to contaminated food? Very low. If food poisoning is diagnosed, will the case be reported to health authorities? Rarely. In a latest report last May, WHO further emphasizes on the direct consequences of intake of contaminated food. The organization estimates that children under 5 years of age carry 40% of the foodborne disease burden, with 125,000 deaths every year. In 2019, the World Bank came up with a report on the economic burden of the foodborne diseases. The report indicated that the total productivity loss associated with foodborne disease in low and middle-income countries was estimated at $95.2 billion per year. And the annual cost of treating foodborne illnesses is estimated at $15 billion. Mr. Speaker, sir, today we know that foodborne diseases caused by chemicals, viruses, bacteria, parasites will continue to kill hundreds and thousands of people every year if we do not impose a necessary control system. It is worthy to note that with the new food bill, food safety is receiving the political attention it deserves. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to recognize that food markets and food supply chains are now massive global industries. For example, food grown in country A may be exported to country B for processing. It is then incorporated into a final product in country C, along with other ingredients manufactured in countries D, E, and F. Then it is sold in country G. This is globalization, Mr. Speaker, sir. And we cannot escape that as we are all evolving in this era. Urbanization and changes in consumer habits have triggered growing demand for a wider variety of foods. This has resulted in an increasingly complex global food chain. Climate change is also predicted to impact food safety. With the resurgence of COVID-19 across the globe, there is a sharpened focus on safe food, nutrition, immunity, and sustainability. The Ukraine-Russia conflict has led to shortages of basic commodities, and it has become a mammoth task for food organizations to ensure food security for the 7.9 billion people living on this planet. So as we can say, Mr. Speaker, sir, food safety is at the crossroad again. As the House is aware, Mauritius imports around 75% of its food requirements. It is estimated that this market is worth 37 billion rupees and represents 8% of our GDP. Therefore, it is legitimate that government gives much importance to this aspect by providing a modern legislation. The presentation of the food bill today shows our seriousness and commitment to make food safety a public health priority. Food safety is mandatory along the entire food chain. As we say, from farm to table, this aspect is being given full consideration in the new food bill. Mr. Speaker, sir, in our industrial development journey, we are putting a lot of emphasis on the uplifting of the food sector to achieve greater value addition. This can be done only if we adopt the latest production technologies and techniques and adhere to all food safety parameters. In doing so, our operators will be able to demonstrate their commitment to deliver to the highest norms and standards thus gaining the confidence of consumers. Here, we should note that there is already a big market for processed food, both locally and abroad, that could be further tapped into, provided the supply-side capabilities adequately respond to acceptable norms. As at now, Mauritius has earned a good reputation for the export of food items, such as fish preparations, cake decorations, alcoholic drinks, jams and jellies, and sweets and confectioneries. On the domestic front, a large group of manufacturing enterprises has been continuously supplying a wide range of food products as alternatives to imports. Many of these products have become household names, enjoying the trust of buyers. I have in mind products such as canned food, beverages, chicken and meat, butter and margarine, spices, pasta and noodles, bakeries and pastries, edible oil, dairy products, and pre-cooked meals. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the food business, the mandatory and overriding factor to gain market share is the ability to convince customers that one's products is safe for consumption. This requirement can only be achieved if the manufacturer strictly adheres to all the conditions as laid down in food legislation. Let me inform the House that at the level of my ministry, we are constantly pressing upon manufacturers to be always in compliance with the necessary food safety standards. This is vital to ensure their long-term sustainability. Indeed, this bill brings a new legal framework that will guarantee the safety and nutritional quality of food. In this perspective, the new bill will certainly encourage operators in the food processing sector to revamp their production processes so as to integrate elements of food safety and traceability. This is a universally recognized concept to hygiene and accountability for the food industry. Furthermore, operators would be able to graduate to a much higher level of food sanitary protocols, meeting the exigencies of the export market. The new food bill has given a new dimension to the concept of food business. It has clearly defined the activities to be qualified as food business, which comprise inter alia, manufacturing, processing, packaging, storage, transportation, import, distribution, and sale of food. This new definition will enable the Ministry of Health and Wellness to identify the various value chains in the food industry and come up more easily with the relevant food safety regulations to protect the population. It is comforting to note that the bill has given a definition for novel food, which refers to food that does not have a history of being safe for human consumption and which requires an assessment of its impact on human health. This bill is welcome as this provision acts as a safeguard measure against any imported food product which is hazardous to the health of our citizens. Moreover, in the global landscape, where food shortage has become a worldwide phenomenon, many operators will have recourse to novel food to cut down costs and increase supply. Hence the importance of this provision in this bill. It will give power to the Ministry of Health and Wellness to regulate sale of novel food in Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is a fact that nowadays people are having more recourse to fast food. The provision made in this bill with regards to food recall is yet another instrument in the hands of the Ministry of Health and Wellness to ensure that food business operators comply with industry standards and offer quality and safe foodstuffs to the population. It is generally said that no one wants to put his life at risk every time he lifts a fork or a spoon in his mouth. The authorities will therefore have the power to remove the food from the market if it does not meet the required norms and standards. I note with great satisfaction that amendment is being brought to the bill with regard to make it mandatory for any person, including the MSB, to apprise the Ministry of Health and Wellness of any instance where food is found to be unfit for human consumption or is likely to cause harm to health or food poisoning. This amendment is removing hurdles to share key information with authorities concerned to safeguard the health of the population. Mr. Speaker, sir, the new bill is indeed a modern legal framework. In the previous Food Act, mention is made that any person who commits an offence under the Act is liable to a fine of not less than 2,000 rupees. It was observed that the fine was not deterring people from committing infringements to the law. Now it is gratifying to note that the new bill has increased this fine substantially to 100,000 rupees. No doubt, this provision will act as a powerful deterrent to discourage violations to the law and will shield our population from any hazardous food consumption. My ministry is leaving no stone unturned to contribute to the welfare of the population. The support institutions falling under my ministry have already put in place several mechanisms to regulate the food safety aspect of the country. To assist operators in this endeavor, government has provided support schemes to enable them modernize their equipment, upgrade their production processes, acquire new skills and knowledge, and strive towards certification such as HACCP, Global Food Safety Standard, IF Food Certification of Products, and SA 8000. I wish to inform the House that at the level of Mauritius Standards Bureau, the Food and Agriculture and Microbiology Lab provides chemicals and microbiological testing services of food and food products such as dairy products, alcoholic products, cereals, meat, and fish products to operators. In addition, the Mauritius Accreditation Services, Mauritas, which has acquired international recognition, has accredited 8 food testing labs. Mauritas has also accredited the Quality Assurance Unit of the MSB for the certification schemes, namely Food Safety Management Systems, FSMS, and Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point, HACCP. This facility is ensuring that food products being tested by our labs achieve international norms and standards. Mr. Speaker, sir, to conclude, I wish to reiterate that this new piece of legislation will change the consumer behavior pattern in Mauritius with regards to food consumption. As a responsible government, we will continue to ensure safe and nutritious food through the promotion of sustainable agriculture and food systems, foster multi-sectoral collaboration, urge the industry and food producers to pursue good practices, and urge business operators to apply preventive controls and programs and other measures to detect and prevent biological, chemical, and physical contamination in food throughout their operations, and educate and empower consumers to make healthy food choices. I will not stop emphasizing that food safety is not an issue for one agency or one ministry. We can only make progress with a coordinated approach that addresses food safety holistically. 3 major stakeholders, namely government, industry, and consumers, share equal responsibility. I have no doubt that the bill will instill more confidence in consumers, as there will be guarantees with more high-quality food products, and operators will be provided with a conducive business environment to prosper. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I will now for a call from the Deputy Speaker to take over.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Honourable Minister, for your summing up. Yes, Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I will now proceed with the summing up of this important piece of legislation. First, I would like to thank all the members of the Parliament from both sides of the House for having brought their insights on the Food Bill 2022. It's unfortunate that the two members of the opposition who had to participate in this debate, they chose intentionally not respecting standing orders, and for such attitude, the consequences and the outcomes we all know. This bill will repeal and replace the Food Act 1998. It paves the way for the new food safety and food nutrition standards so as to be in line with the highest international standards. The Food Bill 2022 will therefore promote healthier eating habits. To bring nutritive value in the forthcoming regulations, we will set standards for the control of trans fatty acids, saturated fats, and salt in specific foods. The House may note that consumption of food containing trans fats such as partially hydrogenated vegetable oil is linked to the increased risk of several non-communicable diseases, in particular cardiovascular diseases. As such, public health experts have recommended the removal of trans fats from food in the food supply chain as an effective way to improve diet and decrease the possibility of non-communicable diseases. In consequence, the World Health Organization has requested actions from its member countries in terms of regulatory and voluntary measures to substitute trans fats with polyunsaturated fat together with public sensitization in the risk associated with the consumption of this food component. Therefore, these measures are in line with the recommendation of the World Health Organization and our endeavor to curb down the incidence of diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and other non-communicable diseases. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I would like here to point out that Honorable Arvin Boulel and Honorable Reza Outim from the ranks of the opposition also came up with some relevant inputs in line with what we in government want to achieve through the enactment of this bill. I will now address the issues which have been raised during the debates. Honorable Arvin Boulel acknowledged that there is wide consensus in relation to provisions of this bill, alongside Honorable Reza Outim. He asked why we do not seize the opportunity and go all the way to set up a food authority which would act as a one-stop shop for all stakeholders in the food business. We are in fact setting up an agency which will act as a one-stop shop for all stakeholders as it was announced in the government program 2019-2024. The Mauritius Food Standard Agency will be operational as from early next year and will act as a one-stop shop for all actors along the food supply chain. In fact, the objective of setting up of the Mauritius Food Standard Agency is to harmonize the activities among all the stakeholders across the food supply chain to ensure the safety and nutritional quality of food on the market. This will be achieved through its board, which will consist of the key holders along the food supply chain. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, Honorable Arvin Boulel raised a question about consultations held in the preparation of this bill. The draft food bill was circulated among the key stakeholders in November 2021. Among the stakeholders, there were the Ministry of Agro-Industry and Food Security, the Mauritius Standards Bureau, representatives of various food business operators, union representatives, and representatives of consumers, such as Association des consommateurs de l'île Maurice, the Association for the Protection of Environment, as well as the Consumer Advocacy Platform. Furthermore, a webinar was held on Monday, 20th December 2021 at the WHO local office in Port Louis with all the stakeholders to discuss with the technical committee and the consultant, Dr. Bitnich, some of the pertinent issues raised in their representations. The consultant from the World Health Organization, Dr. Bitnich, who provided technical assistance in drafting the bill, will be in Mauritius by end of this month for a 2 weeks in-country mission. During his in-country mission, a workshop will be organized, whereby we will invite all key stakeholders, again, including the food business operators working at all levels, to give their views on the forthcoming food regulations. We will also launch a communication campaign focusing on the educative aspects to explain the new food law to all stakeholders. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, Honorable Rezautim elaborated lengthily about the introduction of relevant and appropriate provisions pertaining to halal and vegetarian food and asked when this will be considered. Well, I am sure that Honorable Rezautim will be happy to know that this issue will be among the objectives of the Mauritius Food Standard Agency. This Mauritius Food Standards Agency will develop standards and procedures for the certification of vegetarian food and halal food. These certification will be of interest to Mauritians and tourists, and we are making sure that these standards, like the others, are framed according to the guidelines of the Codex Alimentarius Commission. Halal certification will be based on guidelines set by this commission. Concerning the introduction of vegetarian certification, since the Codex Alimentarius Commission does not provide such guidelines, the Mauritius Food Standards Agency will develop its strategies based on countries like India. Our vegetarian standards will hence be developed based on the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India and adapted to the local requirement and context. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the Codex Alimentarius is a collection of internationally recognized standards, codes of practice, guidelines, and recommendations made by the Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, and the World Health Organization, the WHO, to protect consumer health and promote fair practices in the food business. It's to be noted that 188 countries worldwide are members of the Codex Alimentarius Commission. Codex standards are voluntary in nature and need to be translated into national legislation and all regulations in order to be enforceable. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, Honorable Boulel and team, both asked whether there will be a balance between deterrence and legislation and whether food businesses will be persecuted or harassed. The main role of the authorized officers is to educate the food business operators. Policing of food business operators will only be a last resort in extreme cases of non-compliance with the law. For instance, the Food Bill makes provision for legal tools where the food business operator will be given this opportunity in writing to comply with the requirements therein within a delay, which can be even extended upon request by the food business operator. contraventions and closure of the food businesses will only take place in case of non-compliance. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, we have no intention to ostracize, persecute, or harass food business operators. Our aim is to ensure that safe food reaches our plates. Hence, we have to be cautious at all levels of food supply chain. Moreover, the powers given to the authorized officer is balanced in the food bill by the appeal possibilities of the food business operator to a district magistrate where he feels that his rights has not been respected. For example, food seized as well as prohibition order can be challenged in front of a district court. In addition, the authorized officers are accountable to the ministry, and any negligence in the performance of their duty will be subjected to disciplinary action. Honorable Ovid Bulel asks what is being done to discourage coloring contents and chemicals used to make food attractive au détriment de la santé publique. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the forthcoming new food regulation will set the standards derived from the Codex Alimentarius again regarding what is permissible as coloring substances and any other food additives. The new food regulations will even go further by setting the maximum permissible limits for those coloring substances and food additives. The food bill empowers the authorized officers to take sample of any food to ensure compliance accordingly. If there is any contravention to the food law, the food business operator will be prosecuted and the incriminated food will be seized and destroyed. If the food business operator is convicted, he will be liable to a fine not exceeding 100,000 rupees and to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years, and in case of a corporate body, to a fine not less than 100,000 rupees. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, Honorable Ovid Bulel asks what measures will be taken to prevent dumping. Authorized officers are presently posted on a rotational basis at the food import unit and the airport health office to verify any imported food coming by sea or air respectively, to check for compliance with our food legislation. Any food not complying with our regulations is not granted authorization to enter the country. This control measure will not only continue but will be reinforced under the new food bill. For example, a new section, Section 3, has been introduced relating to the conditions of import food. Honorable Ovid Bulel used an example whereby a cook, what he called Typhoid Mary, was barred from working because of an infectious disease. In this case, it was typhoid fever, and asks what is being done to address such kind of issues. Let me reassure the House that the Food Bill 2022 rightly instructs food business operators to ensure that no food handler likely to suffer from infectious diseases is involved in any stage of food production, processing, storage, or distribution. Provision is made under Section 5.3 of the Food Bill 2022. In addition, all persons who intend to handle food shall possess a valid food handler's certificate issued by my ministry under the food regulations. In order to obtain this certificate, a person will have to undergo a training in food hygiene and a medical screening by a government medical officer, certifying that he or she is free from any infectious disease having the potential of contaminating food and causing foodborne diseases. Honorable Joanna Béranger asks whether the Food Bill 2022 will be aligned on the Use of Pesticides Act and the Dangerous Chemicals and Control Act. The forthcoming new food regulation will set the standards, again aligned with the Codex Alimentarius, regarding the maximum residual limits for pesticide residues in food. In addition, the Mauritius Food Standard Agency will contribute in harmonizing the standards across all authorities regarding food. This agency will also ensure collaboration between my ministry, the Ministry of Agro-Industry and Food Security, regarding the use of pesticides. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Sir, Honorable Ovin Boulel and Honorable Joanna Béranger wanted to know which laboratory has the final say regarding analysis of samples. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has the final say based on results of tests carried out at the Central Health Laboratory of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, responsible for the microbiological, I repeat it, microbiological examination of any food, and the Government Analyst Division, which carries out chemical analysis of food. So we have two types of analysis. One is the microbiological analysis conducted at the Central Health Laboratory, and the chemical analysis conducted at the Government Analyst Division. You will note that the Government Analyst Division is also ISO certified, and this has been recent. This division carries out on around 3,500 samples every year, corresponding to 35,000 test parameters. So it's a huge amount of tests carried out at those centers. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, we are proposing to amend the Public Health Act so as where any person, including corporate bodies and laboratories, whether be it in private or public, has reason to believe that an article or food is unsafe or likely to pose a threat to human health, he will have the duty to inform the sanitary authority of the Ministry of Health and Wellness accordingly. Failure to do so will entail a fine of 10,000 rupees and an imprisonment term not exceeding 6 months. So it is duty bound to inform the Ministry of Health if ever there is any doubt of any contamination in any food or article. I will also remind the House that according to the definition of article in the Food Bill 2022, it encapsulates any food, any appliance, any package, any contact material, and any labeling or advertising material in connection with the sale or production of food. Mr. Speaker, sir, henceforth, it will become a duty for anyone, be it a food business operator or any laboratory, be it public or private, to inform the Ministry of Health and Wellness anytime a sample result concludes that any article is likely to be unsafe. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, since the 1st of July of this year, 2022, a few days back, the Food Regulations 1999 has been amended to provide for the terms best before date and use by date. So best before date in respect of a food or for sale means that the date up to which the food for sale shall remain fully marketable and shall retain any specific qualities for which express or implied claims have been made, provided the food for sale remains in an intact package during its storage and is stored in accordance with such storage condition as the manufacturer may specify. What about the use by date? This is in respect of a food for sale, means the date after which it is estimated that the food for sale shall not be consumed for health or safety reasons, provided the food for sale remains in an intact package during its storage and is stored in accordance with such storage condition as the manufacturer may specify. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as from 1st July 2022, every prepacked food shall be sold not later than 7 days after the best before date has lapsed, but in a dedicated area, and this regulation has already been gazetted. I can assure the House that our public health and food safety inspectors are currently involved with all stakeholders in the food business to implement this new regulation. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the Food Bill 2022 empowers our enforcement officers regarding control measures, but the success of any piece of legislation rests on each and everyone's cooperation and contribution. The ultimate objective underlying this bill is to nurture a food safety culture among Mauritians. Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank all my colleagues and even again the members of opposition who contributed to this debate. I would like to commend the contribution of my colleague, Honorable Attorney General, Honorable Manish Gobin, as well as his officers for their valuable assistance in the preparation of this bill. I would also like to thank the Food and Health Inspectorate and the staff of my ministry who helped during the various stages in the drafting of this bill. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I move that the Food Bill number 10 of 2022 be read a third time and passed. I withdraw this last line, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir.
It is seconded. The question is that the Food Bill number 10 of 2022 be read a third time. No, I'm sorry. Be read a second time. The question, juge against say no. Judge in favor say aye. Judge against say no. Aye. The ayes have it.
Stage. Clause 1, short title. Clause 2, interpretation. Clause 3, conditions relating to import of food. Clause 4, registration of food business operator. Clause 5, responsibilities of food business operator. Clause 6, authorized officers. Clause 7, food microbiologists. Clause 8, powers of authorized officers. Clause 9, determination of compliance of article. Clause 10, procurement of samples. Clause 11, analysis and examination of samples.
The question is that clause 1 to 11 stand part of the bill. Judge in favor say aye. Judge against say no. Aye. The ayes have it.
Clause 12, remedy in respect of article C.
I move for an amendment to clause 12 as per amendment circulated.
The question is that clause 12 be amended as per the amendment circulated. Judge in favor say aye. Judge against say no. Aye. The ayes have it. The question is that clause 12 as amended stand part of the bill. Judge in favor say aye. Judge against say no. Aye.
Clause 13, destruction or disposal of seized article. Clause 14, liability for costs and expenses incurred for storage or destruction of other disposal of seized article. Clause 15, food recall. Clause 16, improvement notice. Clause 17, prohibition order. Clause 18, power of entry. Clause 19, defense of due diligence. Clause 20, time limit for prosecution. Clause 21, presumptions. Clause 22, protection from liability. Clause 23, offences. Clause 24, regulations. Clause 25, repeal.
The question is that clause 18 to 25 stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no.
New clause 26.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I move for an amendment to insert a new clause 26 and for the existing clauses 26 and 27 to be respectively renumbered as 27 and 28 as per amendments circulated.
The question is that the new clause 26 be inserted and that the existing clause 26 and 7 be respectively renumbered as clause 27 and 28 as per the amendment circulated. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The question is that the newly inserted clause 26 stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Renumbered clause 27, saving and transitional provisions. Renumbered clause 28, commencement.
The question is that the renumbered clause 27 and 28 stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The first schedule.
The question is that the first schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Second schedule.
The question is that the second schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no.
The third schedule.
The question is that the third schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The fourth schedule.
The question is that the fourth schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The fifth schedule.
The question is that the fifth schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The sixth schedule.
The question is that the sixth schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The seventh schedule.
The question is that the seventh schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The eighth schedule.
The question is that the eighth schedule form part of the bill. Stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The ninth schedule.
The question is that the ninth schedule form part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The tenth schedule.
The question is that the 10th schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The 11th schedule.
The question is that the 11th schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The 12th schedule.
The question is that the 12th schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The 13th schedule.
The question is that the 13th schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no.
The title and
The ayes have it.
the title.
The question is that the title and the enacting clause stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The final question is that I do report to the House that the Food Bill number 10 of 2022 have passed the committee stage with amendment. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Honourable members, I have to report to the House that the Food Bill has passed the committee stage with amendment.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I move that the Food Bill number 10 of 2022 be read the third time and passed.
Second. The question is that the Food Bill number 10 of 2022 be read the third time and passed. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Motion.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I move for adjournment of the Assembly to Tuesday, 12th of July at 11:30 a.m.
Seconded. The House stand adjourned. Adjournment matters, please. Honourable Subhashni Lachmanroy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Sir, my request is addressed to the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Housing and Land Use Planning. There is a request on behalf of inhabitants of Richter and the New Wave Community Action to secure the yard of the PADCO premises, which is under receivership, as well as its backyard, as this area has become a den for drug addicts. I shall be grateful if the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister could look into the matter. Thank you.
Deputy Prime Minister, please.
I understand this refers to the yard of PADCO under receivership at Richter. At Richter. Yes, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I undertake to certainly look into the matter and find a proper solution.
Thank you. Honourable Daniel, please. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. My general part is addressed to Honorable Mr. Ganu, Minister of Land Transport and Light Rail. There's a request from inhabitants of Dubreuil concerning bus route number 30 and 30A, operated by the United Bus Service. And usually the bus used to go till Dubreuil and go till there is Camboulel there inside. But since more than 7 months, the bus operated by the United Bus Service concerning route number 30 and 30A it has stopped going there, and there are it caused many inconvenience for the inhabitants. I'm making a request to the Honourable Minister if he can look into the matter with the national, with the NLTA, and if possible also he could consider to have the small buses of CNT because the time gap between the bus coming there is extended for more than 40 or 1 hour time. Thank you. Honourable Minister, please.
I thank the Honourable Member for having raised the matter. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I will certainly get in touch with the NLTA and convey to them the request made by the Honourable Member.
Thank you, Minister. Honourable Nakcheli, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. My request of the day is addressed to both the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Honourable Ganu. As you are aware, a fire broke out at Lux Belmore on Saturday, which has caused consequent damages. Thus, the hotel will not be operational for several months. So my request is that if both ministers can have a meeting with the taxi drivers and the beach hawkers based at this hotel and find a way forward to find a temporary measure to bring relief to them, as they suffered a lot during the pandemic, and now as they started to pick up, this sad event occurred, and they are in a real desperate situation. Thank you.
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, this time will take it because you're more senior most.
Yes, I thank the Honourable Member for recalling the importance that we do something about these two categories of our citizens, and I undertake to liaise with my colleague, the Minister of Land Transport, to see what can be done.
Thank you. No more adjournment parties from backbenches. Thank you very much. Have a good trip back.